Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me so much. As always, guys, all the gratitude in the world for taking the time out of your evening to join me on my little show. I'm humbled, as always, for each one of you guys who comes along and has been a part of the community. I have two very awesome people tonight. So before we get into those two, though, let's go ahead and get all the particular information out of the way like we always do. So, guys, if this is your first time watching the show, you picked a really good one to watch. So let's start out by saying where we're streaming at. We are streaming live on our YouTube channel. You can check us out on YouTube at www.youtube.com/C/made from scratch broadcast on YouTube. Do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe button. We are always trying to build our viewership there. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. It'll let you know whenever we schedule new lives, whenever we are live, or whenever we drop new content on the channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Drop it down in the comments. I do appreciate it. And of course, you can check us out on just about every other social media platform at MFSB Live. We are streaming on Twitter via Periscope. We are streaming live on our Facebook page and on my Facebook profile. We are also streaming live on LinkedIn, guys. So if you're checking us out on LinkedIn, you can check me out on my profile on LinkedIn Live. Always all the gratitude in the world for everybody who follows along to the show. And we are streaming live differently on Instagram. So if you're watching on Instagram, we do a little bit different. You get our one-on-one little intimate conversation between me and you. This is our own private time Instagram. So if you don't want to share that time with anybody else, you can find me on Instagram. Everybody else has to share me with their other social media platforms, but Instagram, you're special. So just letting you know. All right, guys, now that we got all that covered, let's get started with this evening's guest. So, where do I start? That's always the first question. And let me just say that both of these individuals, I've learned a couple of new things about each one of them. Right before the show started. I mean, how wonderful is that, right? I mean, I'm always searching for knowledge anyway, so it's cool. I always love this. So the first one, guys, let me start with her. She's made a career offering stories as a service for her, excuse me, from her degree in the film. And this is another thing that I love about both of these people. They are in film, and I love film junkies. One of these people I've actually had a 1-hour conversation with after a live stream show, so that's always fun. But from her degree in film for 3 decades, spent branding products, places, and people to founding her strategic writing practice. She has always understood the power of weaving an engaging tale. Excuse me. Ooh. Got to get that a little bit down. So she helps leaders craft their stories to communicate and connect better through ghost-written social media posts and articles. And she is also a contributor to Forbes. Guys, help me welcome to the show the first guest for the evening, Amy Blaschka. How are you doing, Amy?
Hello.
All righty. Look at this. We already got people commenting. I got Diane Nguyen already commenting saying hello, howdy, all the way from Australia. So thank you so much. I mean, I wonder what time it is there. It's got to be
tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. She's commenting from the future, everybody, just so you know. And then Marcello, yes, so much. So the second guest for the evening, of course, she is no stranger to commenting on the show. She's actually been a part of a lot of my Instagrams. So I'm always very, very appreciative of this lady. And she's actually become a very, very close friend. Personal conversations. I mean, I don't know what to say except, guys, help me welcome to the show, Miss. And I've been trying to get her on for a while. Even our first communications took a while, but you know what? She's here tonight. Help me welcome to the show, Wendy Weiner Runge.
Hello, hi everybody. Hi kids, how you doing? Wait, I'm going to get myself a little bit centered there. There you go. I'm kind of off. Kids, you youngsters,
you young people. That's okay. That's well, it's always fun to meet other people who are, I like to say, more skilled and crafted than I am. So, I don't use age. I don't like age. Age is a number.
Oh, wait, oh my gosh! You mean I'm more skilled and crafted than you are because I'm older? That's so cool.
Yes, you are.
Is that how it works?
Wisdom. I like to say wisdom and knowledge as well.
Amy, I hope you live to be very skilled and crafted.
Yes.
Likewise.
Exactly, right? That's a wonderful way.
Happy skilled and crafted day.
Today. I've always been told, again, just trying to be gentlemanlike here. My father always used to slap me in the back of the head saying, do not ever ask a woman her age. That was back then was considered inappropriate because and of course being a kid, you don't care. You're like, hey, how old are you? I'm like 42. Wow, you're old. Oh, no. So, I try to instill manners and take what my dad taught me. So
good call. Good call.
Yeah.
Your dad did good.
Thanks, Pops.
Exactly.
Up there. Thank you so much. Always. So thank you, ladies, for both of you first coming on the show.
Yeah.
I do appreciate both of you taking the time out. One of the first things that I was drawn to let's start with first Wendy, was the fact that I saw you for the very first time. I was watching Mr. Russ Johns, and I was watching your story talking about how you had met Noah, how your whole story was going. I was really taken aback. And I said, wow, that was the first time I really felt somebody being like super open and honest with their story and just pouring it out there. Jail and everything else. I've never heard anybody just...
No, not jail. Prison.
Excuse me. Let's get that right, guys.
Prison. Yeah.
Right. Prison.
Maximum security. Because I'm a bad criminal.
Right. So that was the first time I ever heard anybody really like just open up that way. And I was like, okay, cool. She's not the kind of person that's going to hold back. So I had always seen you around and finally we tried to connect. I remember it was funny. You called me. We played phone tag for a while, I believe it was.
Like out of the blue, I just called because sometimes it's just easier. Like Brian Schulman, the same thing happened. I picked up the phone. I'm like, let's just talk. We could, play it. I'm like, hey, now that we've heard each other's voice, let's set a time. And then it just explodes from there. Same. It just, you just don't know when it moves you to just pick up the darn phone. Yeah. Kids, there's this thing. It's on the other side of your all your games and stuff and Netflix, whatever. And it has this thing and you just push some numbers in and then someone answers. It's super cool. It's a great connective tool. You should try it, the young kids in the audience. Yeah. I called you. I was like, Gabriel, what you're doing is great. And I'm super excited. And how can I add fuel to your fire?
Yes. So, and here it was. The funny thing is it took us meeting on Instagram one night to actually have a conversation.
I know, isn't that crazy?
And this is why I say Instagram, this is our intimate time. So those who are Instagram get their own intimate version of me. They don't have to share me with anybody.
Exactly.
And then we had a conversation. Literally it was like an hour long conversation after I had already did an hour long live show. So, and it was fun. I still remember the conversation. It was a blast. I got to talk about a lot of things that were very passionate to me. And just, we talked about screenwriting and movies and the whole 9 yards. I don't ever get to expose that side of myself.
You're like, let's go live with this. I'm like, yeah, what the heck?
I was like, well, that's the whole thing is, right? I told everybody, hey, since we're already here, why don't we just go live, right? And put it on. People will find it interesting. I've told numerous friends, like, you know what? I'm going to film myself eating a pickle. I said, if you put it on live, somebody somewhere will start watching and going, okay, this is interesting.
That's the key. Eat a pickle live.
Right?
Exactly.
They got a whole series of it. It's called ASMR. People go on there and just...
Oh, yeah. My youngest daughter loves that. Loves it. Not that
ASMR.
The sounds and the soothing and the paint.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's literally, and I'm like, they might talk like this. Yeah. And they can barely hear.
and a whisper. And
It's like a golf match.
Yes.
I think.
Except without golf. So
No.
without golf. So it could be somebody eating a fucking bag of potato chips, right? And they'll sit there and they're talking about texture and all. I mean, and people watch it. I mean, they get tons of views in it.
We are starved for human connection. So clearly, fast food, junk food. Oh my gosh, I can relate. That's great. You know, we're starved for connection. We were so hungry for it. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna heart what you like and see how long it takes you to reply. And like it's so intense. So why not just have conversations? I think Amy and I started the same way.
We did. Yeah. And we immediately, as everyone does that talks to Wendy, hits it off with her.
I was so blessed. And then it turns out, so you refer to the Noah thing. So Noah is the third of our trio that we were able to help a bit to sculpt his ideas into My Golden Blood, which is in the first book is Crossing to Existence. And Noah and I met when he was my Lyft driver in Los Angeles 4 years ago.
Awesome story.
Awesome story. Let's retell that again because I love the fact that this is all it takes is one simple connection, one right word with the right person that can change a life. And this is why I explain to everybody what I do every night. All I got to do is make one connection.
One. That's it.
And that's it.
I had a friend in a friend of mine in high school, my whole life actually. And I said, how are you doing in college? And he was doing a ton of extracurricular stuff. And he said, I've really found that it comes down to if I just say one brilliant thing per class, I'm good. Like, okay.
All right.
So it's like just one connection. You just don't know. Long story, really short. I was in Los Angeles and I was just on the cusp of producing a project and it was falling apart. So I left a meeting and I called a Lyft and my Lyft driver was Noah. And he always made a pact that he was always only going to go forward because he believes that where focus goes, energy flows. And it was really important to him to just keep moving. If he saw something coming up behind him, he wasn't going to flip around and take it. He wasn't going to take it. But in my case, single, alone, gal alone, 10:30 at night, standing outside the landmark in West LA, and there was just a thing, that spidey sense. So he flipped a bitch. He said, and he flipped a bitch, and he came around. And he came and picked me up, and I never saw him except a little app. I don't care what he looks like. And so looks like a young man, Italian maybe, vaguely Hispanic. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. So I've got a 5-star rating, and I intend to keep that 5-star rating. So I get in the car, and we start, and I had just come from this like landslide of meeting. I took 9 months to shape this deal, and then it just went south. And so I was going to have to do a bunch of legal stuff to get out of it. And I said, what brings you to what brings you to LA? Are you from here? No. Nobody's from LA. Nobody's from LA, right? So what brings you here? Oh, and he just said, I'm writing a screenplay and I'm living with my buddies and in Pasadena, and I'm just working on my screenplay, and I said, that's incredible. Who's your dialogue coach, and what are you doing? And I start to shoot questions. Fire hose him with questions because I was like, I only have, X amount of time. And it's like, and I said, you need, do you have this? And are you in place? And what software are you using? Like everything. And I just found his answers thoughtful and intriguing and well-spoken. And I was just, again, I never saw his face. So I was like, okay. And I said, look, I'm happy to help you. And I know people in Los Angeles who will help mentor you if they can, be of assistance, and I'll make the connections for you. And he took my contact information, and we spoke the whole way. He actually turned off the car. We sat in the dark, and we continued to talk after we got to my friend's house. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, if I offer to help this one, like I better go the distance. Like this one really deserves it. And if he reaches out, I'm in. So 2 days later, I'm back in Minnesota already, and I get an email, and all it says in the subject line is, hi, Wendy, this is Noah, your Lyft driver, with a little smiley face. And that was it. And I emailed him back, and I said, I'm so glad you got in touch. I give my card to so many millennials. They don't really follow up. And I'm so, what can I do? And I'm happy to connect with the mentors. And he said, I really prefer to work with what I have in front of me. I'd rather work with you. And so after a few months of like working together, our youngest daughter, who was 14 at the time, who was smarter than I'll ever be, she's 18 now. She said to me, Mom, you're spending a lot more time mentoring Noah than you do the rest of your strays. That's what they call them, mommy strays. And she said, you should really Google him and see if he's a serial killer. So I'm like, wow, Google has that? That's cool. I didn't know.
Yeah. Let me just check it out, right?
Yeah. So I Google him, and I'm thinking, oh, crap, he could Google me too. Well, there it goes. You can hear the flushing sound in the other room, right? Yeah. So because he's find mugshots, and so I find this stunning modeling portfolio, and I've done a lot of auditions, and I get a lot of headshots sent to me, and it's a beautiful modeling portfolio, but like really high end, beautiful GQ magazine spread stuff. And he never said a thing. So I texted him and asked him, could we have FaceTime? We hadn't done that, and he said, yeah, sure, 10 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, he pops his face, and it's him. It's this beautiful face. It was the exact opposite of catfish. And I said, is this totally like a freaky thing? It was like, what? And
wow.
I'm a grandmother. What do I write? So I take my phone, I put it to my laptop. I'm like, is this you? And he's like, yeah, didn't I mention? I was discovered at 14. My first client was Adidas International. And I've been modeling for 9 years, but I'm shy. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I want to be behind the camera. I'm not very social like that. I want to be behind the camera. I have a lot of ideas. And I said, that's fantastic. But I got to ask, I know what you had to be making when you're doing this, this career, like why do you drive and lift? And he's nothing but honest all the time. Like he strives for honesty is such an important component of him. And he said, I was looking for you. I can't do this on my own. And I needed someone who would help me. And I knew I was, and right after that, he stopped driving Lyft and basically, and like shortly after, and we're like, okay, let's just go. And he sent me 15 pages of a script, and I liked it a lot. And he had 2 guys on my team who don't like anything, and they were like, this is interesting. And I was like, wow. And I said, let's produce your film. Before I saw him. And the first thing I said to him, I saw him actually, is I'm so glad I loved your soul before I saw your face.
Yes.
And he said, yeah, me too.
And
that's it.
And let's talk about how we got Miss Amy involved in everything here as well, because it's like a troika of interesting folks. And I remember the first time I got introduced Amy, I was more intrigued with her articles. I used to read them on LinkedIn. I go, wow, her articles were.
Me too. That's what drew me in. I was like, wow, right? This woman has a lot to say, but she puts
they were so thoughtful,
and
insightful,
really compassionate.
Yes.
Like doesn't talk down to you. Like this is the deal.
Yeah,
me too.
And again,
look at her blush. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So Amy, how did we get together?
Yes. So let's go to that part, because again, I was, when I saw that you were connected, I was like, okay, wait a minute. That's pretty awesome, because she's a really great writer. And then I'd seen some of her other stuff and some of her other posts, and I go, oh, I would love to hear how all this happened. So now that I have both to be here, let's talk about that, because I want to know that.
So we met, it was through LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm was it through Sarah Elkins, the mutual connection? Was it Zach? Sarah.
It could be. I just know that I kept reading your stuff, your posts, and I was so impressed, and I thought you were holding back. So I thought there's way more here, and I think she could be bigger. And I remember we spoke, and Noah and I were driving from LA to San Francisco for a meeting, and I said, hey, can we take you out for a cup of coffee? And Noah was with me, and you're like, yeah. I said, how about we meet at your Pete's? And it was your second pizza of the day, but you were willing to So we sat outside, and it was beautiful. I don't remember. It was like September, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was nice day.
Something nice day, right? So we're sitting outside. I remember there was a mom and daughter British on the next table. Mm-hmm. And I just said, like, I'm just going to lay it out. And poor Noah, it's very quiet. She asked no questions, got him engaged. Like, I knew they had a really good connection for him. Like, that could be good, but not in any purpose. Just like, oh, she's super compassionate. She asks really good questions, gives him time to thoughtfully think of his answers. And so, sure enough, I said, I think you have no right to be small. I think you need to be big. You need a big stage. You're worthy. She's crying. I'm crying. The British ladies at the table are crying. It was so emotional. It was so like, and she's like, you said
I cried, right?
You said, I've thought about this, but I wasn't really sure. I'm like, no, it's under there. You need to be, we need you to be big. The world needs you to be big. So you need to, whatever is holding it, I'm giving you permission. I remember saying that. I'm giving you permission, which is who am I, right? And we're in Pete, and we're crying, and Noah is sitting there. Just
He's
watching.
like, oh God.
Just watching.
There's a lot of estrogen around here, right?
So, and the British ladies and the other are like, oh, that's so beautiful. It was so awkward now that I think of it. And but that was it, because I was like, I want to introduce you to people, and you have so much to say. And you said, I was in a job for a long time where I kind of had to push it back, and I don't really think I want to do that anymore. And I was like, you go, whatever we could do will help you. And that's kind of, and then it was a mess.
But it was great, because you know what, Wendy saw me. You know what I mean by that? Like, some people are like, oh, it's very surface level. Wendy has this way of really zeroing in on somebody and instantaneously seeing it. Just like she did with Noah, right? And it's
yeah.
Gabriel,
I got one of those phone calls. I was like,
I said, you're doing great.
I was like,
you do more.
Whoa. Yeah.
You were like, maybe you were probably not even 20 episodes in, and I happened to catch you one night, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm so blessed that I get to cherry pick the great ones.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so then we came to we needed someone to polish the manuscript. I took a stab at it. It was horrific. Noah and I finished it, and it was really, it was fugly. It was not a good. And our agent said, no, you need to find a ghostwriter. We interviewed some really New York Times bestselling authors, and it just wasn't it just didn't work for Noah. It just didn't work. And for me, it just wasn't it just didn't fit. And then I was watching Bohemian Rhapsody on a plane. I was flying back and forth to the coast, and I was watching Bohemian Rhapsody, and I remember which coast, and I watched Rami Malek, who played Freddie Mercury. He didn't act like Freddie Mercury. In my perception, he slid down the back of the costume that was Freddie, and he crawled in, and he was able to become that persona. And so I thought, wow, Amy, so totally, I know you, Freddie Mercury, the whole thing, it's like a weird combo, but it was so I was like, okay, Amy could do this for Noah. She could crawl into the really intense part of the character so that Noah has crafted, and she could help us polish it. And because he could sit and watch us cry, he could certainly sit and, answer the questions. And it was just really he was really thoughtful about it, kept eating us tissues and whatever. But I just thought, wow, she has that ability to crawl in, which is for all of her. So when you read when her posts on LinkedIn and Forbes are so powerful, because she's not just, here's a subject. She's like, I'm crawling into it, and this is how it looks to me from my perspective, and I want to share this with you. And I just knew she had that creative thing, and she could do it. So I called her, and she's like, I've never done that before, but. And then the trio was born.
By the way, Wendy calls me, and this was a couple years ago now, and I'm sitting outside at our youngest daughter's softball game that is about to start. And I see my phone. I'm like, oh, Wendy's calling me. Okay. And I'm like, hey, on the backside of the bleachers. Hi, Wendy, what's up? And then she kind of says, okay, we want you to do this. We want you to take this script, and we want you to turn it into a manuscript. We think you'd be perfect. We, meaning she and Noah, we adore you, and we know we could work well together, and he trusts you, which is really important, and you take good care of his ideas, and I'm like about to cry, because I'm totally sorry. I'm like, oh shit, are you sure? I've never done this. I would like to do this, but I haven't done this, and I don't want to mess it up, sort of thing. So this is the conversation. She's like, listen, no pressure. But Wendy's a very persuasive person.
Clock
too.
Is ticking, babe. Clock is ticking. No, it was really.
I think it'd be really great. I think we can both come and visit you, and we want to get you the script. Want you to read it. Love your thoughts. So I'm like, great. It's all before a softball game, and I'm just like, And it was one of those things, we ended the conversation, I was super pumped up, and I'm looking like, who do I know? Who's here? Some other softball cat. I'm like, hey, guess what just happened?
I'm sharing this
ticket.
He's like, really cool. So it started that way, and then Wendy and Noah came to visit me, and we sat in my house in my dining room table, and I had read everything before. I compiled a list of questions. I love my highlighters and my sticky notes and everything. But
legal pads and highlighters. If those come out, we're getting serious.
Well,
Amy's like,
it was, yeah. I really wanted
First, it's like, are you hungry? I'm like, she's Italian. Yeah. I'm Jewish. It's like this. We're like, she's like, do you want coffee? And I was like, oh, I'd love coffee. She's like, great. There you go. And it was like, okay, we're all comfortable. And then she whips out the legal pad with a list of questions and highlighters. And I'm like, yes.
I don't know how not to do that.
It's great.
I get deep because I really, it matters. I really want to have an understanding. And my questions were not so much about like this or that, or it was like, so when this happens, did you mean this? And what about that? And is that connected to that? And sometimes Noah's like, I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't think of that. But that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that works.
It is because, right? I mean, it's the whole process of creation, right? Here's the thing. When you're creating something like that, you know that that's your work. That's you're essentially your soul on paper is what I always say it is, right? Yeah. And to hand it to somebody else and to go, here, I trust you with it. That takes a very, very big step because, I mean, even in the Hollywood game, sometimes rewrites, sometimes writers will try to fight to get their rewrites just because they know that's my soul right there. I'm going to give it to, because they know at some point they're going to have to hand it off to a director.
Here, Gabriel, I just had a baby. Could you raise it for the next 6 months and then I'll come back and check on it?
Come back and exactly, right? Like, here you go.
That's what
just that's cool. And then you're like, you know that you're going to have to at some point let it go, especially if you're talking about writing a script or something like that. Because even if you're writing a book and it's going to go to a publisher, somebody's going to go somewhere. You know what? Let's change the title. I mean, what?
Right.
At that point, you're like, oh.
I've been there.
But right? Yeah. But if the dream, if whatever it is, to go ahead and put it out there, and you know that that's what you want to share, you go ahead and do it anyway, and that's part of it. And to trust somebody that much, I've found that's sometimes very difficult.
Right. It's the fact that she instantly established the trust. And had we not sat there with Noah watching us cry, it would have been a much harder sell. But I said, I think Amy could really be exactly what we need. And he's like, okay. I really trust his creative instincts tremendously, and he and his people. If he's like, we got to walk away from this, we walk away, and he trusts me. Like, okay, this is I'm doing what I think is the best for us, and so it's really interesting. It's a super interesting give and take.
Yeah, but even every good writer, sometimes they'll have a content editor, right? They'll have something to go back. Yeah, to go back. I mean, I get it. It's your story, it's the arc, you've created the plot, you've gone in depth with the characters, but sometimes it takes that outside perspective to go, hey, you know what, this will add strength here or this goes here. So that's a whole part of the game. I'm learning this because I'm writing my book, a couple. I've thrown a few of my hands in screenwriting as well. So you get the opportunity to go figure that out, and again, at your creation, your masterpiece, whatever you want to call it, it's going to change from idea to, if it gets up there, to who knows, big screen or it's published. But again, it's part of the journey. It's how you learn. And at some point, you do it enough times, you get full control. At one point, go, hey, we trust him enough. I mean, Stephen King can go, I can write whatever the fuck I want, and
he does.
And he does.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, Woody Allen can sit down and write and say, I'm going to write whatever the fuck I want. I've written enough of these. So I've gone through and put the knocks in. And I think that's some, but still doing that trust process, it is huge. So for somebody to say that, somebody to trust you, somebody that much, that says so much about somebody's character, and that you
Right.
took I mean, literally, she took out a whole pad of questions.
Right. Yeah.
I can see why you said yes.
Oh, I was so thrilled. So thrilled. So that, there's, it's so easy to screw up trust.
Yes, it is.
Like, it's so easy. Had Amy just said, you know what, why don't we make all the characters little people or something, that didn't really fit with like I'm just picked something obscure. I don't know.
Yes.
Let's say, whatever. And so they should all look like Oompa Loompas or whatever, like the thing. It would have been like, well, there's a lack of trust there because she's going so far outside the scope of what Noah wanted to deliver that it wears the integrity down. And she just asked questions that were so pertinent to just delving in deeper, because that's just who Amy is deeper. It's not about fluffy. It's about, even her dog talks. Okay. So I'm serious.
Yeah.
Her dog sits on the floor when we're working really hard. And then Rigby out of nowhere will just start vocalizing. And she's like, don't say PARK or DRIV. Like, don't say that. Because like
ALL.
yeah, like we're stealing from the dog. But it's a trust, because he will not trust us if we say that. But the trust thing is so hard it's so easy to just, it's gone, to dissolve. And so that was really, so then we had like 3 big sessions, like first act, second act, third act of the novel. And so 3 big sessions in the house, in the dining room table, or by the pool, like back outside, like just simple, like whatever. And then the third session took place on Noah's birthday. It just kind of worked out that way, where we actually finished it up. And totally is a very big component, not a little throw you a bone here, like a little, thing here. There's a very big component in the book and in the script about severed human hands. They're important to someone, and apparently whatever. So I'm gonna say more. So that was Noah's birthday. So Amy hands him a bag with big tissue paper coming out of like a bag, and he's just ecstatic. So I'm taking pictures right and left because I have an inkling what's inside the bag, and he's taking the tissue and he's throwing it around, and he reaches in the bag and he opens up and he looks. He's like, oh. And he pulls it out, and it's a rubber, severed, bloody hand. And we loved it. We lost it. We thought it was great. Like, and I was like, where did you get that? And he was like, Amazon.
Of course.
Right? Amazon will bring you anything.
Yeah. And so just to go back to our first meeting, the first coffee, we really went to San Francisco for another meeting with someone else. And he's a great guy. But it just wasn't a good fit. And sometimes you backdoor, like, oh, I'm here anyway. Let's have coffee. This will be great. And the truth is, like, the most valuable thing that came out of that trip up there was just having the opportunity to like really just get to know Amy and to sit and get through that. Like, you could say, oh, that's the connection I want, or I don't have any expectations that way at all. I'm just going to go. Energy goes, focus. Like, that's where I'm going to go. So and that's a Noah thing. That's like, okay, we just trust it. He asked me today a very good question. He said, are you disappointed as things kind of changed, as the industry changed, are you disappointed, to paraphrase it? And I said, no, I'm excited about this path. Like, I'm super excited about the people we're bringing in. I'm super excited. I don't have any preconceived notions of how this is going to go. I just know. And I said to him that it's true that an airplane flying from New York to Los Angeles is off course 85% of the time. Technically, an airplane going coast to coast is off course 85% of the time. But it's a tiny series of minor corrections from the tower, from the pilots, from the computers that keep you on course. You don't hear about an airplane that's going from New York to LA and it lands in San Diego. Whoops, we kind of missed it. You don't, unless there's like some kind of an issue or weather or something, you don't hear about that. It doesn't happen. So we all need those tiny corrections. We have to embrace them because they're really setting us on the right path. And so, that was, so I'm sure I'm off course more than that.
I've never even met him, but I like him already.
Yeah, he's a good man.
That's cool. I feel the same way about, I don't believe in coincidences. Right. I don't at all. I am a big believer in the law of attraction, and like attracts like, and if it's supposed to be the right fit at the right time. it feels right. Baby,
And Amy
go.
said, I've always thought about writing. I've always wanted to write, and I was like, well, wow, this is what a perfect entree. So is it good for her in her writing career? Gosh, I hope so, because we're going to take this great places, and I hope so. So, but,
Yeah.
So, woman's got
again,
skills. That middle woman has skills, man. She's
that's
crazy
awesome.
skilled. Crazy.
And again, like I said, when you start finding that stroke and that groove of writing, it is one of the best things to be in that zone. I've been there sometimes where I'm just writing, even if some of it doesn't make sense. If I write like 5,000 words, I'm ecstatic. I'm like, man, I've been hitting
Cruising.
it good today. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's a good chunk.
So what Ernest Hemingway says, there's nothing to writing. You just have to sit at the typewriter and bleed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not such a bleeder. Like I'm not like the way people who really go deep. Like I'm a crier or whatever. But like I'm like every day writing for Noah must be really, what he writes is really challenging, and it's really there's bleeding in that aspect of it.
yeah.
And I'm more to the sunshine and unicorns kind of. I'm willing to go dark, but I'm still. We'll laugh about prison, so whatever. So I'm not that dark.
You're not too. Wait a minute now.
Not too dark.
So,
but his is hard. His is much harder.
Yeah,
his job is much harder than mine is.
I agree. Going into emotional writing, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to emotional write. And I'll tell you, just out of what I do. So if I want to be heartbroken, man, I go back and think about things that get me in that mood. I start putting on fucking music that
sad songs.
Yeah. Or you just get stuck in there, but then you start getting in the flow of, okay, the tears are going. I'm right where I want to be. And then when I want to get out, I'll reach out to somebody. Please give me something good. Tell me something good.
Right.
Because I think that's where, I feel like I write my best sometimes. It's just being where I don't even filter. I just feel emotion and it comes right out. I mean, I wrote so many good things after my dad died. And I just use that because, again, it was a powerful moment. And when I go back into that moment, oh boy, it is.
And you read it and you're right there. You're right there.
So how do you approach that part of writing for yourself, Amy, whenever you're trying to do, again, because it's a little bit more sometimes difficult because you're taking somebody else's ideas, but you still want to put your emotions or what it is you're writing into somebody else's creative idea?
So it's really interesting. And I think even though I wasn't ghostwriting this, it was kind of just translating, transforming, adapting more or less, and adding to it. A lot of what I do with ghostwriting is it's like becoming. I call it almost like method writing, where I literally, like Wendy alluded to it earlier, stepping into the persona, the skin, the mind of the person and I'm trying to, not to sound all like woo-woo, but like really channel them. I want it to sound like them because it is them, their words, their thoughts. And with what Noah wrote, what I ended up stepping into, and I remember sharing this with Wendy, is I'm stepping into these characters who are very different from who I am, right? I mean, these young guys and their language and the tone, because that matters, right? I'm not writing as Amy Blaschka, a mature woman with kids in suburbia. I'm writing as a 20-something troubled. Yeah. It was really interesting, and it's the language. So I'd find myself, and I do this with all of my writing. I'll read it out loud, just because it's one thing to see it on the paper, but you read it out loud, and you hear it, you feel it. I don't know if everyone does it, but I do this. And and there are times and I'm like, holy shit, like I just became Clay, the main character, and I'm like, so it's not hard, but it's a very deliberate process. And when it's intentionally putting myself into a place like that, because I feel like it does help channel. It does help write in that style, and it does flow much easier because in that moment I am that character, And so that's the way I approached it. And having read what Noah had already written, and having the conversations that we had had and the questions I had asked him, I knew where his head was. I knew how he wanted this character, what they were all about. Even if that dialogue, even if the description wasn't there, I knew Noah's brain, what his intent was, right? And his creative vision for it. So it was about trying to honor that and help bring that to life. So that, and that again is trust and kind of feeling like I really want to do it justice because there's so much. And, you know, Noah's not here. He's a man of very few words, extremely intense, creative, bright. It's one of those, you can look in his eyes and there's so much going on. You know, there's a very active, you know, thing going on here. But he says 2 or 3 words, you know, in response. Or if he says more, you better take notes and pay attention because there's a lot of there. There is zero fluff. Zero.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
It's very true. And to add to what Amy just said, her skill set is listening and then taking what's said and what's meant and like chaff and grain, pulling them apart and then being able to deliver what was meant or to get to the root of what, is this what you meant? Is this what this means? That is the listening part of it is extraordinary. Like as a ghostwriter or she's an author in this and people have said to me, oh my gosh, you know, what was your thought about, why would you bring her as an author, whatever, because she earned it. She stepped in a way that was really like, she wasn't ghostwriting this. Yeah, you know, I can make your pronouns proper and like, no, that wasn't it. She was inserting herself into this process to make it understand palatable for people who didn't think like Noah or me. There are other people in the world, and she did that, and she added a lot. So, and it was like just the process was really so huge commercial for Amy Blaschka because seriously, this woman has the ability to create really cool things. So I'm so curious to read what she writes on her own. What her thought is, when she begins to dive into her career in fiction, which I'm sure that I hope you're going to have. That's going to be great. That's like, oh my gosh, you know.
Oh yeah,
like, this came out of you. I mean, this is so cool.
Creative writing is so fun. It is so fun for those who don't. Who've never really, and that's what I get. There's some people who can structurally write, and when you talk about creative writing, I go, man, I just have a hard time creatively writing. And go, dude, but it's creativity. I mean, anything and everything is on the table whenever you write. Right. Whatever. Just this is why I
and you wonder if the teachers or some of the influencers said you can't do that. You're not good at that. Don't do that, and they just squelch their creativity. You know, school is famous for that. Oh, you know, color in the lines and do what we tell you to do. And 2 + 2 has to end up this way. Like, it's really hard to get to that place where you're like the creativity is embraced and still you learn the structure of it. I mean, I was super blessed. I can't do anything else.
Even that is telling somebody, when you write and you want to feel in the mood to write, don't worry about the structure at that moment. You learn structure as you go along. You'll learn how
we can get there.
Yeah, you can get there, right? You can. For some people, I get it. If that's the way you work, you got an outline, you got a story arc, you got to go into character development. Cool. You go and that's your process. Awesome. There's some people that can sit down though and just start writing. Let them go, and then at that point, after they get the idea down, the general whatever it is, then you can go back and go, okay, now let's go outline this story. Let's go break it down. And you find people who do like what Amy has the talent to, because that's a unique talent, to tell you the truth.
Really unique.
It is very unique to people who work and do rewrites and do all these other things and take somebody else's project and ideas and turn it into something really strong and viable. So that's awesome that you can do that.
And when you're in the middle of it, Gabriel, like when you're in the middle, it's really hard to see what works and doesn't work. It's hard. I'm a structure gal. I like all that stuff. But I'm a character gal. I have a really good friend who was the first feature film I executive produced. His name is Adam Lefevre, a brilliant writer and a fantastic actor. Like he's been in every Matthew McConaughey film ever. You've seen him 100 times. And he's just an amazing guy. And Adam said to me, at some point in time, the characters start to tell you what they want to say.
Yes, they do.
And you're like, so you have to be a good at that point. You have to be a good listener, because you're going to hear voices that only exist in your head, and you're going to hear that. And that's really key. So when Amy launches her fiction career, we're going to finally get to hear who's in your head, and have tremendous respect for that, because I think creativity in all forms, in painting and everything, no one has a right to tell you that, oh, that's not good. It's not in the lines. It's not this. It's not. Nobody ever has a right to tell you that. So if we do anything today, we should give people permission to go be creative, for fun. Grow yourself in a creative way. Do something different. There are lots of platforms to publish. World's Best Story with our agent Vincent Solera. Like, there's a lot of places to go print good material, and it's going to touch that one person. It changes you. It does. It changes you. So go do something creative. Go.
Yes, go please. And that's where I'm like, when I say I want to step away for a little while, that's what I want to go start doing, is just to go start helping young individuals learn how to craft that voice. Because at that point, when they're that young, that's when the creativity is like all over the charts.
Oh man. Oh, totally.
Yeah. Can you? I mean, can you imagine?
Unfortunately, though, when you're young, that's also the time that a well-intended teacher or someone might go, oh, but that's not really practical. That's not, you don't want to write like that.
How do you make a career like that? How are you going to pay the rent?
So if you can catch them young and still encourage them, that would be awesome.
And that's the whole thing, right? You tell them that. You tell them, look, you want to craft the way you want to write. You want to become who you want to be. 15 years ago, nobody knew what Quentin Tarantino was. And now he does everything wrong when he writes a script according to what Hollywood said should work. And guess what? He is.
Everybody knows who he is.
Everybody knows who he is. Everybody loves what he does. I mean, that's what I tell them. Nothing you write and nothing that you create is off the table for me.
So here's the thing. What you have to do if you're going to be creative is you have to seek out your posse that's going to bolster you, be honest with you, support your efforts. That was interesting. That's super important. And you and I have talked about that, Gabriel, like finding that partner who is the counterpoint to you, the yin yang. Like, you got to have that other half, the thing that people drive around, in a lift looking for, whatever that thing. Yeah. God, I was so lucky. I won the lottery. On that one. I won the partner lottery. So, but you have to find that person who needs exactly what you offer, and vice versa, because being creative alone is brutal. It's so hard.
No, but it's truth. It is. Everything is truth. So when you find a person that can go, you know what? Sometimes they might read what you say. Hey, why don't you try this? Something you never thought about. And you go, holy shit, why didn't I think of that? Right. Yes, it works perfectly. I mean, you find, but that's the whole thing. When you creative write, at least that when you start doing that and you start getting connected with other creatives, who knows at what point when you're going to find the right person you're supposed to, but
you don't know.
You don't.
It's on the most unlikely place. It's in the most unlikely place. There's no way you could script it. And then we met at a writer's convention, and I found that he did that. No, I wouldn't go to write. I can write. I only have 3 skills. I can write. I can tell a good story. I'm serious. I'm not being self-effacing. I'm telling you, I'm so bad at so many things. I can write. I can tell a good story, and I collect amazing people who can do the rest of the stuff. That's it. That's all I got. So, and I work those 3 things so hard, but I mean, nobody trashes a kitchen better than I can. I can cook a little bit, but honest to God, it's a mess. It's like call the fire department. It's so bad for it. It's terrible. There's so many things. There's whatever technological challenge. There's a million things I don't do. I can barely jiggle the handle on a toilet. So SteamYard, I'm like, oh crud, what are we gonna do with this? I gotta read up on it. So all that said, I'm like, seriously, I'm like, wow, I jiggled the handle. I'm a pro.
You got it now, right? I mean, yeah, that's right. Here we are. So that's a thing. So find your posse and start building them. And some people are just
really good feedback people, and some people encourage you when you're down, and some people give you great advice and you're like, that's great advice, but I'm not yet at that place. I'm not. Or they tell you to be brave, or they say, let me introduce you to somebody. That's the purpose of a posse, that you have this group that you can go, wow. I've called Amy like the lowest of lows, like been like, okay, wow, what am I going to do? And how am I going to, and she's like, you got this, Wendy, you got this. We're going to just do this and you'll see. And you need that. You owe that to yourself. So again, permission granted to go find a posse. Go build your people. Go build that group around you that lifts you higher. All of us got to where we are today. All of us, because we stood on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
That's the only way. Not because we didn't lightning didn't strike and all of a sudden I think I'll be whatever. No, like this wasn't, but I stand every day on the shoulders of giants and mentors and people who offer, and my daughter who told me to Google Noah, like stuff, starting conversations, like everything, giants, just giants.
Yes.
So go look for your giants.
Yes, sir. Yes. Oh my God, that's so true. And I love just being around creative people in general. There's so much fun and there's so much, I mean, when you feel that you got somebody around you who can be creative and you just start talking and ideas start flowing. I mean, that's when it's, to me, that's when it's fun. When I'm sitting here talking about it and going, okay, cool. Like we talked for an hour about movies. I could probably talk 4 hours about movies because I just love that end of it. I could talk 4 hours about writing because I love writing and reading and all these other things. So this is when I find other creatives. This was the original intention of the show when I first started it. Now it has transformed because I do find, again, finding the crew, finding the right people, finding the community to build around me has been such a fun process. But I've never abandoned the creative part of my heart and what it is that I want to do, because again, it never goes away. I mean,
no.
How can you sit there and go, listen, if you're listening to your heart, go, I mean, literally, I'm writing stuff down at the end of every show. Why am I writing stuff down at the end of every show? That's just a creative aspect of me going, I learned something. Let me write it down. Crap.
I got to share this. I got to share it. I learned it. I own this now. I got to share it. Amy does that every day with the posts on LinkedIn, the Forbes.com articles. Every day, it's like, and where do you find these people? Where do where you can't get into Lyft every day and find somebody new that's going to inspire you. Like, how is it possible? Where does that creativity come from? Where you're like, where there's a need, there's a seed is a phrase I use a lot. So then where do you come up with let's just interview Amy. Where do you come up with your articles? Where the ideas come from?
Everywhere in my everyday life. I'm a highly observant person, and I do this weird thing where I find connections between things that shouldn't be connected, but they do in my brain. So, but I like that. I thought everybody did it that way, but that's not the case. But it's really drawn from my everyday life.
Did anybody say to you, people don't do that? People don't.
Well, no, nobody said that. I don't know that I mean, now I do that and I can say that, but I was one of those kids. I had in my AP English class, my teacher had given us an assignment where we could do something, and I don't know if I've told you this story, Wendy, before. No. Maybe I have, but it was a creative writing. We could choose to do different things, and I think I chose like poems or something to do, and he laughed at me as I read this aloud to the class, and then they started laughing, and I'm a very sensitive person anyway, and was like mortified, right?
Right.
And you think, oh shit. So okay, yeah, I can write an AP essay, I can do this, I can do all the things, but that was sort of the beginning of that pushing down thing. And when I got to college, on the other side of that is that I had a professor, I was taking a creative writing class, and she pulled me aside after class, and she's like, Amy, and I was a film major, but she's like, I think you should seriously consider changing your major. You have a gift. You need to keep writing. And I was like, whatever, thanks. But I mean, it's amazing when you kind of have that. So
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, it took me decades to finally stop hiding. It had people like you in my life to say, Amy, you're playing too small. You're kind of being safe, right?
Yes.
Because when you're a creative person, you're throwing yourself out there. It is you. You are vulnerable, and
it's so scary.
Out of you, you know?
So the question is, when your first book is on the New York Times bestselling list, are you going to call the guy who laughed at you and be like, you know what, you're such a schmuck, really? Like, do you feel any like animosity towards him, or do you feel like that's the fire?
Yeah, you say, you know what, thank you.
It's more like, watch me prove you wrong. I'm not someone who is a negative person. I mean, it hurt me. Obviously, I'm still like telling it. You know,
it's cringy. It's cringy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you though way more. Not that I wasn't already this way, but way more empathetic, way more compassionate, way more like, you know. I would never do that. And you're in a position of power and influence as a teacher. You know, it's like, gosh.
My thing is, I was shocked. I was shocked.
But no, I would rather not give any more credence to him. And honestly, I was thinking of this the other day. I'm like, what the hell was his name? You know? I'm trying to what was his name? And I can see his face because I never forget a face. But I'm gonna have to pull out some old stuff because I don't know if it's just my subconscious, you don't need to remember his name. You're just gonna block that out for you. Or maybe the best thing I can do is use him for character development.
Beautiful. It's that we were just Noah and I were just talking about today. It's that feeling of standing at the doorknob if you're an abused kid. And you have to walk in your house. Mm-hmm. If you know wherever you are, going into class, and you have to read. You've read last time you read, the teacher laughed at you, and going in, standing at the door and putting the doorknob in your hand, and you've got to go in, and if you have to put on your bravest big girl or big boy underpants, you got to go in and deal with this the next day, whatever something happens, and it's that feeling, that once you open the door, the feeling starts to diminish. And once it runs from your hand to your pen through the ink onto paper, it goes. It goes away. Oh. It really does. And that's a really important thing. It goes away. The bad parts of it, the good parts of it are essential. But to have the bravery to stand at that door, Amy, and turn the knob and say, I'm going in anyway, that's you. That's you. And that's just a wonderful, tiny little component of who you are. And I love you.
And that's the whole thing is if we would have just listened to ourselves, I mean, gosh, sometimes that's what it can come down to. I mean, my ninth grade teacher told me, and I did this as a joke, and I wrote an article about it and I posted it. But when I was in ninth grade, our assignment was to write what we're going to do for the next 5 years once we get out of high school. And I wrote this huge thing about being homeless. I wrote this whole just joke piece, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, but I went really very, very scripted, very detailed, very colorful, all these things. I read it. We had to go read it in front of the class. I read it in front of the class, right? Got a few laughs, got a few whatever. Right. And then my English teacher, who happened to be a coach, he was the football coach. He goes, "Hey, come here. I'm ready to get asked here." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus!" Right? He goes, "You're a really great writer. You should do something with that. That's a talent that not many people have."
Nice.
And if I would have said, and I was kind of like, yeah. And if I would have just listened to that moment where he said, "Hey, you weren't ready." Yeah, I wasn't ready. But shout out to Coach. I never remember his name. Coach Mark Moore. He was a.
Yay!
He was.
Hero moment.
There you go. Right. He was the one that said. It told me years later. He was his words or what I thought about when I said I want to start writing, and I started. I go, son of a bitch. He was right. So one day, if I get to that point, I will write a character about him. How you can find that person who really does see a gift, and not expecting to hear something like that from somebody. Right. Just like Amy heard the opposite end of that was somebody thinking that, hey, I'm going to show this person and put them in their place.
So that said, I have to share this story. I was in high school, and I am not a math gal at all. So it's a long story. Geometry and I didn't get along, so I had other people do the work for me and to take the test for me, and then it was okay. I did okay. So that said, so the next semester I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to switch to business math. And the business math teacher was the football coach, Coach Reed, and he had huge stovepipe biceps, huge guy. And this kid in the front row was like, we don't need to know. I'm never going to be in business. I never need to learn this stuff, and I did need to learn it actually. And Coach Reed leans down, and he's just got a polo shirt on. His biceps bulging, and he leans into this kid's face, like knuckles on his desk, and he said, "Son, parts of your brain are dead, and it's my job to wake them up." Exactly what he said to him. It was the craziest thing, and the kid goes, "Okay," and that was it. And then that was on. But that was my football coach experience, where he was like, "I know what my job is here. I have to wake up the dead parts of your brain." That's great. It's when teachers have the ability, and everybody can be a teacher. That's the thing. I'm not saying to be a professional teacher, but everybody can be a coach, a mentor, lift someone up, help someone, give a kid a hand. Like, that's the important thing. And the fact is, why do we have to do it? Kind of goes back to a little project of mine that I love. It's because someone did it for us. So we talk about it. If I borrow $1 from you today, Gabriel, and you pay you back tomorrow, we're even. But if you do something extraordinary for us, I can't pay you back in kind because you don't need what I needed. What do I have to do? It means I have to find somebody else who needs something extraordinary and go out and do it for them. Yeah. And every day people reach out to me. I'm so impressed. This really is good. This really, thank you so much, whatever. And so many people come out to me. I'm like, oh man, there's like a whole list of people that I need to reach out to. And so in my golden blood, to bring it around to this, is that, here's Clay, this young man who's brutally, emotionally and physically abused as a child. And he runs away to a mentor who says, "I see greatness in you. You have a capacity for greatness." And the mentor turns out to be a megalomaniac who takes broken teenagers and builds them into weapons. Ooh. So you have this scenario that what do kids who are in a bad situation, do they know if they run away, do they run to good? No, because they may not know what good is. And so that's when people read this and then watch the film, and at the point is like they have to assess, like, do we know what good looks like? Do we know what good is? And that's a really key element. So, the elevator pitch, the Hollywood elevator pitch is, imagine, thank you, Zach Messler, imagine someone has decided to destroy 100 million happily ever afters. Ooh. Now, imagine that person was you yesterday, and today you decide to stop what you started. Ooh. And that's the project. So it's a trilogy, 3 books. Each one, 3 main characters. Each one comes from the perspective, continue a story from the perspective of one of the characters. The first book, Crossing to Existence, is from Clay's perspective. And then the next book, Collecting the Hidden, is from Kate's perspective, the woman who gets in his way. And the next one is the last one is from the perspective of the general, the bad guy. But I had to do it. Chaos creates all kinds of new opportunities, and et cetera. And it's the continuous story as told from 3 different voices. Ooh. So it's going to be a fascinating channel. I love to have this conversation with Noah and find out like when the next and how this is coming and what did he discover, and a little piece of the creativity that rides. So that's it. So I love that series. Yeah. It's a series, young adult thriller. We have a fantastic agent, and we have a lot of great people on our side. We're just on the cusp of signing an extraordinary executive producer in Hollywood. So she's just beyond our wildest dreams. And Noah and I met her once. Somebody introduced us to her, and we've kept in touch. And once she left 2 of the big studios and kind of went out on her own, it just was the right time. I went out, called her, and I'm going out to LA soon to hang out with her and to Noah and I lay it all out for her. And
man, I love those kind of
on the shoulders of giant stories. Seriously,
I love those stories. I love creativity just in general. How, man, it already got me thinking about one of the things I had written. I don't know. I'm not too much in the horror genre,
right?
But the whole thing of lately has been the zombie apocalypse and whatever. So I thought about it from the perspective of, humans are becoming more and more extinct because of the zombie apocalypse and people are dying. And then I thought about mixing the world of vampires, and they're going, well, they need us to live. So
they're on our side. They're on the team. They're on Team Human.
Yes,
wow.
right.
Wow, that's interesting.
So they would have to turn into pretty much our saviors to save themselves. Exactly, right? Yeah. I'm just not into horror genre, so that's why I've thrown it out there. Said, look, if you want to turn it into something, go right ahead. I just
crowdsource it. Go ahead.
You free, find something in there. You go whatever, guys. That's an idea just to throw it out there. I'm a romantic comedy guy. I'm sorry. I'm just either that or action. That's what I grew up on. Yeah. I am a big romantic comedy guy. I'm sorry. I just love. I don't know. It's just something about. I'm a big fan of love. So that's what.
Cool.
That's where I.
Happy 22nd anniversary with your wife.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And again, thank you so much. It's been an interesting journey. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
And you know what? But it's only part of the journey. We still got the rest. We still got the rest of forever.
So you're 22. I'm 33. Amy's 25, right? You're at 25. 26. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of marriage, and I guarantee you, if we sat down and talked about what you've learned from marriage, you'd be like, I don't know. Don't leave your socks there. I don't know.
You're right.
I
think that's the whole different. That's what the whole thing I'm thinking about is the romantic comedy part, because everybody loves to write about the beginning, the love, the lust, the
pow.
That stuff. Yeah, the pow. I'm looking for that. Right. I want to write the other end of the spectrum. The couples who've been that long and what they go through and how they still keep all that going. And I think there's
so much there.
So much fun.
My grandparents, my mom's parents were married 73 years.
Yeah.
And at their 70th anniversary party, my husband, who's a smarty pants, asked my grandfather, he said, 70 years is a long time. I mean, we'd probably been married like 10 years at that time. He said, that's a long time. Did you ever think of divorce? And my grandfather was a doctor with a great sense of humor. And my husband, poked him on it. And he's like, divorce, no, murder.
Now you're talking.
And he's thought about that. And she's like, oh, whatever. But that's, the truth is it's a journey. It's a big, being anything, a partner with anybody, living with anybody, putting, that our kids still tolerate us at all is shocking to me, because we have issues. And so they're like, oh yeah, we'll help, whatever. And that they want to come home. That's just crazy. That's what you aspire to, that, roots and wings. It's, we owe our kids roots and wings, a place to launch from and a place they know they can come home and be safe.
Yes.
And so it's shocking to me how much they've put up with. And, but it's really murder.
The murder line is killing me right now, because I'm thinking.
I know murder. I know. I can see it in your face. I know.
I was just thinking about somebody thinking, oh my gosh. Yeah. I know. Right. Divorce is too easy. Divorce is too easy.
Theoretically, it's easy.
Yeah.
But I come at a different. I'm like, Peter, I've already been to prison. I would take you out in a minute if you do that again. It's like, oh, I guess that's
right.
Okay, now I know.
Let's think about
of it.
Oh gosh, there was a guy I used to listen to on the radio, and he's talking about his grandparents, right? And he would talk about they've been together for 60-something years. And here he is. He's going to stay at their grandparents' house. His parents dropped him off, whatever. He goes there. The grandparents think he's in bed, right? Mm-hmm. Bed next to him. And I think the line he says was, this kind of scarred me for life. He goes to hear my grandparents going in the other room, and he tells his wife of 60-something years, hey, come here, give me some of that dynamite pea. And I was like, what a line. But that's what I mean when I say the other side of happiness is those years to say so.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. That's your rom-com right there.
Yes, right. To see those things right there. And
I just saw this great clip. I don't know where it was from when Harry bit Sally. They're Billy Crystal and his wife is dead, and he turns into he moves into a nursing home, and there's, oh my God, I love her. I can't think of her name. She's so beautiful, British in her 70s. Oh, it'll come to me. And she's there, and she orders the same way that Meg Ryan character does, and and then she says, well, I want to stay with you forever. And she's like, really? And her fangs come out, and she bites him, and they become vampires. I'm telling you, it's hysterical. It's such a great take on the thing. They become vampires, and they're like, oh, and then she's like, oh, blood thinners, and she spits it out. Like, it's just a hysterical. I can't think of her name.
Oh,
she's super hot in her 70s, and she's
let's see,
anyway,
super hot.
So in her 70s,
Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
Helen Mirren. Oh yeah.
And she's super hot with the vampire fang. It's just crazy. Anyway, search YouTube. I'm sure you'll find it, and it is hysterical. Old people are funny. I mean, it's just old love is funny, So
it's because at that point, that's why I love that idea. Because here's the thing: at that point, you don't give a shit about what you say. Right. The clock's ticking, so you're like,
I might pee.
Yeah, exactly. Gonna have to drink a lot tonight or something to get that out of my memory. That just know that I have to cut the replay at minute 7 because it's like,
I can't get that out of my mind, right?
Yeah,
oh my
God!
God!
Walking into your grandparents' room and seeing something you shouldn't or whatever. So okay, on that happy note.
That's on that happy note, guys. Let's get this thing wrapped up. I had this wonderful conversation. I'm not even. You know what? I'm gonna break tradition. This is the second time. I'm not going to even ask the question I always ask. I'm having too much of a good time.
What's the question?
Huh?
Does it have the letter P in it?
No, it doesn't. But maybe I should add it though. It probably add.
What's the question?
It'll add pizzazz to it. Okay, so the question is. Here's the question I always ask. Don't answer, please. But I'm going to tell the question anyway. Here's the question. It goes. So when the book is said and done on Wendy and Amy, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, and what do you want to be remembered for? And that's the question.
We don't answer that.
Don't answer that. I don't want that answer. I'm having
Let it just hang there.
Exactly. That way you can sleep on it later and just go, you know what? Fuck, I had a good answer too, and you didn't let me answer it.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
It is brutal.
You know what? Let's answer for each other.
There you go. There's a different spin on it. So whatever you want to do.
Similar, right?
I don't even know. I can't. I don't even know. I see my iPad counting down to 2% now, so I'm like,
again,
but that said,
no coincidence.
No coincidence. There's no coincidence, and there's no connection that can't be turned into something positive. Oh. Like even Amy and the laughing teacher and y'all were like, oh, let's make that some positive. That fueled me. That's awesome. There's no connection. So stop being afraid of connections. Stop being afraid of turning the doorknob. Go in. You never know who's on the other side of the door.
Yes. Right. So Russ just wants to say he loves us all.
Aww. Love him back. He's the best.
He's the best.
He's not a pirate captain. He's a pirate admiral.
Yeah, that's right.
He never missed. He had surgery, never missed a pin in his hip, and he never missed a single. Whatever. I'm sorry, but it's just insane.
Speaking of tips, let's get out of here, guys.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, guys. So thank you so much, everybody who's following the show.
This was great.
I had a wonderful evening.
And if you want us back when we launch the book, maybe we'll try and see if Noah will join us. But for sure, when the book launches, we'll come back and we'll talk all about it.
Oh, most definitely. Cool. The door is always open. So whenever you're ready.
Gotcha. Thank you, guys.
So everybody else, I will be back tomorrow evening, 7:00 Central Standard Time with my guest Violet Rainwater. You guys sit tight for just a second. As long as you can, everybody else, I will be back tomorrow night, 7:00. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.